So I want to ask a simple question, and maybe people can type the answer in the message box. I don't know what business you're doing, but if you had only one activity, if you had to focus on only one activity to build your business, what would it be? If you had to just focus on one activity of your business, what would it be? What do you think is the most important activity that you should focus on as a business? Anybody? I'm just waiting for answers in the chat bar, and my co-host should be joining soon. I don't know why he's late, but I hope he joins in soon. If you had to focus on only one aspect of your business, only if you think what is the most important thing to focus on as a business? Let me get here and see. I don't see the chart. I want to see what people are saying. Gilbert says marketing. Benjamin says developing the brand. Brand, very big word. Huh? That's a very, very big word. I have two answers. If you had to focus on only one aspect of your business, what would it be? Data management, Abraham, data very, very important. If you had to focus on only one aspect, Philip says customer satisfaction. If you had to focus on only one aspect of your business, what would it be? Anyway, just hold that. Let's get on. So let's just get on to this customer development. So the golden rule really is that thou shalt know thy customer. I hope you can see my screen. If you can see that screen which says thou shalt know thy customer, you can just type yes for me. Yes, people can see it. Great. So that's really the golden rule, knowing your customer. And knowing your customer is not a simple thing. Very many people have developed businesses and they don't really have a clear understanding of the customer. There's usually a thin line between matching customers and then getting messed up. I want to begin by taking you through an example here that I like to use. This is someone called Ivan, and he wants to buy a car. Ivan makes about 5 million Uganda shillings per month. He is in his 40s. He was married, but he's not married anymore. In his pursuit to make money and to become a partner in his law firm, he's a partner in a law firm and an accounting firm. He left his family behind. So now he has more money than time. He has fun with his friends. He goes to the nightclubs in Kampala. He dates very many girls around Kampala and goes to casinos. So Ivan wants to buy a car. You know just a few things about Ivan. You have seen his lifestyle. You know his age. You know his income per month. You know what he does. He has a partner in an accounting firm, and he's a partner in a law firm. And now he wants to buy a car. Maybe I'll go to the chat here. What kind of car do you think Ivan is going to buy? I'll go to the chat. What kind of car will Ivan buy? Anybody with me? Anybody wants to answer? Ivan wants to buy a car. What kind of car will Ivan buy? I don't see people answering. Maybe I need to go back. I told you really about Ivan. Ivan, who you can just say maybe he'll buy a Premio, or he will he may buy someone says Mercedes Benz. Depending on his income, he's in his 40s. He's a lawyer. He has an accounting firm. He has a lot of time, and that's his lifestyle. He dates very many people around town. He goes into casino for some gambling, and he wants to buy a car. What will Ivan buy really? I see a Range Rover Sports. West just says Raum. Someone has said Alex. Let's just leave Ivan for a bit. Let's move to another person here. This is Laura. Laura is the same age as Ivan. They are both in their 40s. She is female. She is married. And she's very committed to her kids. She probably makes, all her family together, she makes about 800 to 1.5 million a month. And what is she thinking about? She's really thinking about paying school fees for her children and how to keep her home in this expensive, exclusive area. She lives in Kampala. Where does she spend her time on Saturday night? She spends the time at home, mornings at home, weekend mornings at home, and all her time she's at home with her kids if she's not at work or at church. So that's Ivan and that's Laura. So what will Ivan buy? Maybe for some of you, you can put Ivan this and Laura this. What do you think Laura will buy, and what do you think Ivan will buy? Looking at the charts, when you see my screen disappearing, you know I've gone to the chat. Suppose my co-host is not here. I don't know what has held him, but I'll try to juggle both and see how we can communicate. Ivan, put Ivan the car and Laura the car. Ivan car, which car, and Laura which car? I want to see some responses. And Laura will buy a Wish seat 7 people, etc. And Ivan, I'm not sure. Ivan, people already said, someone said Alex. Ivan Range Rover. What team says Ivan Range Rover. Laura will buy a Sport. Irene says Laura would buy an affordable family car that is fuel efficient. Laura Spatio. Ivan, I don't know what Westgate is saying, but that's how it is. So really what we have done here is what we call building personas for our clients. It's really like an image of your ultimate client that you're targeting. And companies know this. Companies know this, and they build cars for different classes of people. A person like Ivan, when he's buying a car, actually he's not buying a car. As we will learn more what Ivan is buying when he buys a car, he's buying an image. He's looking at how to keep up with the times, how to impress the people he wants to impress. So he's looking for an image at the end of the day. And the comment says we can go through the clothes he wears. From the picture, he has a suit, the clubs he belongs to, maybe he's a Rotarian, whatever, the websites that he reads, the magazines he reads, the movies and the clothes and the aftershave, etc. And you will see that by the end of the day, Ivan is not really looking for a car, he's looking for an image. And so some companies like Mercedes or like Rolls-Royce target and build cars for particular people. They will sit down and build a persona. They say our person is an officer. Maybe he has this age, he has this income, and he lives in these areas. He wears like this, and this, and this, and this. And then they will build a car for the Ivans. The car for the Ivans will have some luxury in it. Like a Benz, you will find there is maybe a place where there is where to put a glass of wine. They will have some leg room. The whole finishing will be really, really luxurious. Some leather everywhere, and the music, of course, has to be on point. And they will make it really luxurious for such kind of people. And the same will apply to the price. The other companies like Toyota, which will sit down and say, no, they are Lauras, the Lauras of this world, who don't care about the image. They have a really low income, and all they care about at the moment is something that can move them from one place to another. They are really looking for a car that can just do the work. Can it do the work? Can it transport my kids? Can it get me Matoke when I want it? Does it have enough space to put in lots of things for the kids? And that's all they are looking at. And such companies like Toyota will build different models like Spatio. They will build rooms that are very spacious, but when you go inside, there is really no luxury in it. Everything is really functional. Everything is for achieving a particular goal, and they will build that car. They have this picture of their customer in their head. So does Mercedes have a picture of the customer they are looking for in their head. That is really a component that we call personas. So for every business, it would be really very, very important that you map out the persona of your customer and look at really the key factors about the customer. Now, generally speaking, there will always be this curve that is here, the normal distribution. There will be, generally, there will be some people who are always at the end of the curve, here and maybe the other side. In a given population, there's always a general trend that most of the people usually go in here. For instance, in Uganda, most of the people really, you'll find they are in the ranges of the lowers. There are very few people who care about luxury, and that's why Toyota sells more than anything in Uganda, because Toyota focused on what we call the beachhead market, this market that is the mass market. Toyota focuses on the mass market, so they look for the people and really focus on the mass market. But there are others like Lamborghini, which may go this side and maybe focus on only these people who are at the end of the curve. And there are others who are here also focusing on the really, really lower end of the curve. Whereas there are the lowers who want something functional, big enough, and etc. There are some people who just want like a two-seat car, takes two people, very small, very, very efficient, just for two people. There are also not very many. I think if we take like the population of Uganda, there are not many. Most of the people want something functional and something that can take more people and is economical. They are here. And there are a few who are on this side of the other curve who want something extremely luxurious, and it continues. That's really the curve. So every business has to make a decision on which part of the curve they want to focus on. They have to make a decision on which part of the curve they want to focus on. And not and all businesses on either front can actually have a big sales margins and can actually be profitable. Rolls-Royce makes very few cars a year, but it's profitable. Maybach makes like 2 cars the whole year. They make only 2 cars the whole year, but they are also profitable. So it's possible that you can be at any end of the curve and still be profitable. Many businesses focus here. But generally, the general trend is that actually businesses that look at the mass market generally make more. Though they make small margins per each, they make more money than the ones that focus on just a small portion of the market. What happens when you build a product that is for all ends? If you want to build one car for Ivan and for Laura, what happens? You want to build one car that Laura will like and that Ivan will like. Well, how do you think that car will look like? Anybody wants to give me an idea on the chat? How would the car, one car that works for Laura and for Ivan look like? Do you have any model of a car that you know that is like that? One car for Laura and for Ivan. I don't know if people think such a car exists. One simple car that can meet the needs, that has luxury, has the affordability, has the everything at once. It's really not possible to have such a car. If you build it, then you build what they call neither woman nor a fish. It's something that doesn't do either well. It does neither well. It's just there. It's an in-between strategy, or what we call the mermaid strategy. It doesn't do anything well. It's not luxurious. It's not. Uh, it's not luxurious. It's not either way functional. Um, so the business doesn't work very well. People will not buy the car. So you're better off looking at your persona and understanding the customer. That is really the component of the, that is really the whole element of personas. That is what personas mean. It means that we shall go and map out, look at the whole market and look for a particular segment that we want to focus on, and then build products for that particular segment. Understanding this can save you a lot of time. I don't know what products people are working on. Maybe some people give examples of the products they are working on. You'll quickly see that there is a temptation to build a product for the high class, but also for the low class, but also for, so you end up, but it can't be one product. You can have a variant of products, but it can't be one particular product. You can't build one product for all the different markets. It may be different versions of the product. Some businesses have a premium, have a normal, and have also another version, usually three versions, one for the low class. For each of the components of the graph that I have shown you, there's one, usually pricing, usually, I don't know whether you have realized, it's hard to find a website that is selling things that are more than three categories. Usually there are three to cater for each of the segments, one for the high class, one for the middle class, who are usually the majority, and one for the extremely low class. I don't know whether you've noticed that, but if you check pricing for most businesses, it's usually three prices, three bands to cater for all the different markets. So that's what we call persona. That's what we mean when we say persona. And I want to quickly open up a persona template and see how it looks like. I hope you can see my window. If you can see my window, say yes. Which window is showing up? If you can see something that has like persona. It's been and it says yes, yes, yes. So where we have like a picture. So here what we have is um, what you'll see is that we have, let me see how to hide this. I hope you're not seeing it. What we have is we basically profile our customer and we look at their age. This could be the average age, what experience, what do they do, what are their titles, what education do they have. Someone raised their hand. I hope you can see my screen. Can you? Can you see my screen which has the persona? Somebody type yes for me. Oh no. Yes. So we look at these different things: the age, the education, the language, the revenue, how much money do they make? And we profile them. Where do they spend their time? What are their pain points? What drives them? As you saw with Ivan, really, he's not building a car for the sake of moving from one place to another. He's buying a car for image. So what drives them? Is it image? Is it functionality? Is it some other issue? What are they looking at? And um, what are their validations? What input helps this person make a decision? What can you do to help them to get to a point where they will buy the product? That is persona. I did a small example of a persona. Let me see if I can get you an example. This is a persona I did for certain company in Rwanda. Can you see my screen where there is Josephine? I have so many screens, so sometimes I lose touch of where they are. Uh-huh. Now the chat has disappeared. Can you see the screen for Josephine? Everybody says no. What about now? Somebody type for me. Nope. Let me see another way to, let me stop sharing this, and then I'll share again. I don't want this. Can we see Josephine now? Can we see Josephine? Yes, now, eh? Great. Great. So this is Josephine. I did this persona for research and farm, and it's called One Acre Fund. And then they were looking at building technologies for farmers, and most of their farmers were actually old, an average of about 45 years old. All the experience they have is farming, and most of the people are family people. This one has 4 children. This Josephine has 4 children. The education she has had mostly is high school education. She stopped at senior 4. She knows Chinyarwanda. She doesn't know any English, and she knows little French. She owns a feature phone. You know, feature phones, the other ones that are not smart. That's all she owns, and has never used a smartphone in her life. Now, Josephine, every day she wakes up at 5 a.m. She has 4 children. Depending on the day, she spends the day, she's a group leader in her farming group. She spends the day um, meeting, she has 18 groups, so she meets these people and she collects their payments and etc. And this is Josephine. Her key motivation, a direct quote after interviewing her, is when I see my children eating, I feel very proud that I have made this possible. And her hopes and her motivation is to buy a cow and help produce manure for her farm and save up for school fees for her younger 2 children. So she hopes to buy a cow, and she wants to produce manure for her farm. The cow will help her to produce manure, and she also wants to save and get some school fees for her children. So now you want to build technologies for people like Josephine. I hope you can see some clues that will quickly define what kind of technology you build. Another great farmer here, uh, Maricel. He has a wife, 6 children. He stopped in primary 2, no English, no French. Has a feature phone, never used a smartphone. He has where to charge it from. He charges it twice from a nearby center at a fee. So all this, just this quick information can tell you what kind of technology you build for Maricel, for instance. You have to, first of all, he knows no English, and most of the people don't know English or French. So your technologies quickly, that one tells you they have to be in Chinyarwanda. Can they read and write? That's another issue. Luckily for most of them, they can read a bit, but because they are not very informed, you may have to do a lot of pictorial. Um, they don't have time. They spend all their time in farms, unlike the young generation, which has a lot of time to really uh, to spend a lot of time on smartphones and all. These people are very busy. His main challenge is the fall armyworm, which disturbs him, and he works hard to provide food for his family. He's provided his insurance and school fees and etc. So I guess when you begin map out to the customer, you finally come to some conclusions. There's a few conclusions here. Majority of the farmers, of course, the percentage has to be confirmed as well. This wasn't yet confirmed. Have feature phones. That's what we have observed. Majority have feature phones. We're not yet sure how many have smartphones, but we have to do our research and find it. A few have solar power in their homes, and a few can charge from the nearest charging point, but there is a fee. So that's a possible barrier for them adopting your solution. And uh, almost 0% speak English. It's in Rwanda. Some of them speak French, but all speak Chinyarwanda. Therefore, all apps have to be in Chinyarwanda. Number of them cannot read or write. Some of them can get help from children, group leaders, neighbors. When they need help with a phone, I actually met one of the people who told me that their children helped read the messages. Um, this special category of the farmers called field officers can use feature phones, and most of them have high school education. they have numerical skills and can read and write. The average age has to be confirmed, and most of them are uh, optimistic they can learn how to use a phone. So we make conclusions about our customer when we have mapped out personas. Now that's the first key element in understanding customers. I don't know if I have questions so far. I don't know if I have any questions. I don't know if we have any questions to take before we dive deeper and deeper. So that's really understanding the customer. You have to look at a 360-degree view of the customer. I hope that's what I've been trying to explain to you. A whole view. What do they do? How much time do they have? How do they spend? What are their aspirations? Otherwise, you'll end up building a product but none of them really like. So I'll tell you a short story. I had in about 2014, I was consulted by a friend who wanted to build a website for job seekers in Kampala. And he had seen these big job sites like monster.com, like indeed.com, and he thought he would do this in Uganda, which is possible. And he had an assumption that he used to say that the job is the most important aspect of living. It's a basic need more than even food or shelter, because when you have a job, you can pretty much get food and shelter. So he got on and engaged me, and we started building this platform. And his customers were really the job seekers. He used to say that job seekers will pay. He had put a fee of 50,000 for a job seeker to pay and then begin accessing information about jobs, mentorship, and etc. We spent a lot of money. Actually, he resigned from his job. He had savings of about 70 million. And we started building this solution. Some money went to tech. And because he didn't know anything about lean marketing, after the site went live like this with a few jobs, he hired around 6 marketers, physical marketers, to move around Kampala and begin marketing. He hired a huge office on Kampala Road, a very good office. And we were there, but up to then we hadn't known, for instance, we hadn't asked ourselves, how much income does a job seeker earn for him to be able to even pay for the service? How much does a job seeker earn? We hadn't looked at their income. Job seekers have no money. And as it turned out, not realizing that that wouldn't be a good customer segment to focus on, we launched the site, and only 5 people paid after an investment of about 20 million in marketing. Only 5 people managed to pay for the product, and those 5, 2 were our friends. One was his girlfriend, and the other 2 were the lucky people who paid. By the end of the period, he had blown up all the money, about 70, even borrowed some, and the business went south, and all the money was lost. So understanding some of these components, each of them is really key to understanding the customers. Now, I'll just move from that. If you have questions, please type them in the chat bar. I'll move a little bit and now talk about, remember when we talked yesterday, we said that whatever you think you know before you start a business is a hypothesis. Whatever you know is a hypothesis, is something that is not valid. Whatever our hypothesis then was that job seekers can afford 50,000. Job seekers need jobs. That's true. That was our first hypothesis. We thought that job seekers need information about jobs. That was true. Can people see my current screen now? Let me see. My current screen now has a test, what we call a test card. So I'm just talking about some scenarios. Number 1, job seekers. Our assumption was that job seekers need information about jobs and about career growth and how to prepare for interviews. That was our first assumption. Our next assumption was that job seekers can afford 50,000 to pay for us every year, so they can access this information. Our next assumption was that employers will find our platform easy and they will want to use our platform. Employers will use our platform. I will just stick to those assumptions. There were many more assumptions. Those are what we call hypotheses. So what you would do, you would now pull out your test card like this one and say, you know what, I'm assuming that, you call it a test name, maybe you want to test whether job seekers can pay for our services. So job seekers can afford 50,000 to pay for our services, and there's a person to do this experience and deadline and a duration. So we say, we believe that job seekers will pay 50,000 to access information about jobs. We will verify that. So now we look for a way to verify that. How do we verify it? Again, without incurring a lot of cost, without running the whole way. What we will do, we will go and assume we'll create a simple area with maybe 10 jobs and go and show it to job seekers and tell them we can show them many jobs and give them some training. And then, so we'll use a prototype to go to these job seekers and then see and then ask them to pay 50,000. That's what we'll do. We'll simply ask them, show them something, and ask them to pay 50,000. We will measure the number of people who have paid the 50,000 or have committed to pay the 50,000. The number of people who committed or actually paid the 50,000. We are right if, remember yesterday we said that usually we test with 100. That's a rule that someone created, that whenever you run an experiment, you reach at least 100 people. We are right if of the 100, 70% actually commit or pay this 50,000. This is a lean experiment you do without going very, very far. You look for the simplest prototype that you can show and go and do this experiment. And then you go and assign. So if we had done like this process before, wouldn't have had to build the whole site and invest into marketers and all. We would have just called maybe 2 people and got a simple prototype. We'll talk about how to build a prototype or an MVP tomorrow. I mean, next week on Wednesday. Next week will be for MVPs. And we will test each of these assumptions using that MVP. We believe that they can pay 50, and then we'll go and we have to measure, and we know when we are right. If we are wrong, the answer is we pivot or persevere. Pivoting means that we either change strategy or we even leave. We say this business does not work, or we persevere, we make minor changes and etc. We either pivot or persevere. And usually when you get these cards, a very informed process, you feed back the information into this card, which we call a learning card. A learning card with what insight, we say maybe price. We are trying to verify a price point, the person and the date of learning. So we say we believed that job seekers can pay 50,000 to access jobs. We observed that actually very, very few were willing or committed to pay this 50,000. From that, we learned that our customers cannot be job seekers, and therefore we have to focus on other customer segments. Therefore, we will explore other customer segments and see if we can make enough revenue from them to run a successful business. That would be an example of a learning card. A learning card. And these experiments have to be done using an MVP or the simplest version without going. For us, we learned the hard way. The experiments we ran, true, we learned it, but we learned it after spending huge sums of money. And the aim of a lean startup, remember, is to minimize wastage and maximize learning. So if we had known about this lean methodology and how to run experiments and minimize wastage and maximize learning, there is a huge chance that we would have saved a lot of money in the process. we learned the hard way, and most businesses learn the hard way and lose a lot of money and resources. So that is it. That is it. And as you can see, the process of running these experiments really takes you outside of your building. You can't run this from your home. You have to move and speak to the customer. Remember, as we were talking in the last sessions, we said that you have to move to the customers. You have to get out of the building. And most people delegate this role. Unfortunately, for a business, the founder yourself must move out. You can't delegate the role of customer development to your juniors. The real founders have to move out and they have to do these experiments and then learn firsthand what the customers are saying. And another fact that I've talked about is that it is important that you see at least 100 of these customers and make sure they are not your relatives or friends so that the answer you get is not biased. Are we together? If we are together, you can say together. You can type for me together if we are together. Together, or Tim says we are together. And James says together, Irene says we are together. Fantastic, we are together. So what we have done so far, what we have talked about in the last 40 minutes is we have seen how to profile our customers using personas. And we have said you have to look at the whole 360-degree view of the customer. If you realize you have different customer segments, you may have to think about developing different products for them, because one product really usually cannot meet all the customer segments across that curve that I showed you, the binomial distribution. There are always a few on the lower end, very many in the mass market, and very few on the other end. Trying to build up one product that meets all of them usually is a strategy that doesn't work. It's a mermaid strategy and results into, doesn't work. It never works. And businesses that have done that have not really made a lot of head start. You're better off thinking about one market segment and really launching out to that market segment first. What businesses do, even if they have more market segments, they launch out to one first. And when they have made enough money, then they can launch out to the other market segments. And then we have seen a simple template here of running experiments. And these are very many experiments about price. You want to experiment about the price point. You want to experiment about whether they will be willing to pay. You want to experiment about very many things. There are so many experiments that you need to verify before you go out. We run different experiments. Would users, do users even want to use my platform? They may have a smartphone, but are they willing to install an app like that? Very many experiments for each of the things that we are not sure about. And then you get out of the building and meet at least 100 people and categorically state whatever they have done. And then from there, we end up at a learning card where we summarize what we have seen, and that is used to make a decision of whether to pivot or persevere. Pivoting means that our assumptions were totally wrong, and therefore we need to either change strategy completely, or we may have to just leave the business. That's also a decision. You may have wrong assumptions and you just decide to leave the business. Alternatively, there may be major changes to our assumption and we decide to just persevere by making minor modifications to our strategy. So that is really the whole cycle of customer development. It's a cycle of running experiments to validate whatever we think about the customer, running a number of experiments, learning, and using the simplest tools that we can use to learn about the customer. I don't know if anybody has questions at this point. Any questions for me? If you have a question, you can raise your hand and I'll take you, or you can just type in the chat if you don't want to talk. But I hope that we are getting these concepts of the lean methodology, minimize wastage, maximize learning. That's the whole goal. Minimize wastage, maximize learning. I don't know if there are questions for me or if you have an example, you want to ask about experiments and what do we take to these customers. That's what we'll do next week. Next week, same time, Wednesday at 3. We'll run this experiment. We'll go through what to take to the customer, or what is the MVP that will show that, because the customers really have to see something that you will use to run these experiments. What do you take to them? Do you go like, so that will be next week. And then finally, we'll look at, Abraham raised his hand. We'll look at the other way. Abraham, you're welcome. You can really talk to us.
Yes, thank you, Sam. My question is about persona again. How is the persona of an agency? If your clients are agencies or governments, how do you assess that, and how is it different from individual customers?
Yep. Very good questions. Thanks, Abraham. Are you in America?
Yes.
Good to hear from you. I hope you're safe. Coronavirus is not disturbing you.
I'm very safe. Thank you.
Thanks, bro. So that's a very good question. There are businesses which are B2B. For instance, you may have, like he's saying, you're selling to businesses or to governments, and therefore the persona will actually be different. It will be different. So this is an example. I hope you can see my current screen. Like I said, I have so many screens. Somebody type yes for me if you can see my current persona screen, just to be sure before I begin engaging with it. Hello? Anybody seeing this new screen? Just type yes for me. No one is seeing it. No one is seeing it. Let me see. Stop share. Let me share again. Let me share this. Can anybody see my current persona screen? Yes, now it has come. Yeah, so for an agency or for government, those are usually difficult. It's quite challenging, but let's say I worked with hospitals, but for a long time I hadn't profiled them at all, and that one was very, very bad. For instance, so this one would change a bit. Some of the things we would look at, for instance, is what is their revenue. That is very, very important. Like for a hospital, it took me a long time to really find out how much hospitals make, but maybe I'll give you a brief example. Like I realized that actually, if it's a health center it cannot have a budget that is below 800 million Ugandan shillings. 800 million. They have a budget of about 800. And for real hospitals, all their budgets are between 1.5 to 3 billion. These are annual budgets. So once you know that, now you're beginning to profile them. So these customers actually have some bit of money. They run budgets of 1.5 to 3 billion. But also the other question is how much, for instance, if we are building a tech product, what is the percentage of that amount would they be willing to give IT? Or I'm just trying to profile an example. What percentage do they give IT? Now, all over the whole world, I learned that actually companies in the US and in Europe, they usually allocate 2 to 3% to IT, to technology. So I am profiling. The IT is usually 2 to 3%. In Uganda, it may be less because their demands are more. Maybe I'll say 1.5. So now knowing this, already you can say I have an insight of how much I can begin charging for my product. As an organization, we may want to look at the average education level, for instance, of the staff, because you're selling an organization, maybe the users are the staff. Just making assumptions again, we may say the organization has maybe it has 400 staff, and of these, only 40% have really good, what I would call good computer skills. So you see how I'm profiling it. And most especially for organizations, we have to look at their buying behavior. So there are also many factors. What I'm trying to say is there are many factors that we may have to look at. What is their buying behavior? Some people spend a lot of time building products for huge organizations, and when they have built the product, they realize that the buying process is a long process. There is maybe a 4-phase procurement process. You find there are 4 phases of procurement involving open bidding, involving maybe etc. You find there are lots of processes, and then they get purchase orders. So organizations will have to look at this factor critically. I know, like Abraham has said, you may be building for government, and the buying behavior includes, for such a project, includes even a parliament. Parliament has to sit, the parliament, whatever, they have to sit and agree. So knowing all of this really begins to throw some things in your head, whether you have the capacity to go through the procurement process and also learn what are the problems. Corruption, a huge problem that you may incur, and all of this will make you decide whether to pivot or to persevere. But we have to also understand their behavior, and those are some, usually the buying behavior I've seen very critical, their income or how much budget they have for such a project, how much does it usually cost. Look at all those technicalities are good when we are learning about our customers. Like I've said, most people will say, my customer, I see this a lot, especially in healthcare startup, my customer is NGOs. Now we have to come here and quickly map out this NGO. How do they buy? Because the NGO targeting, most of them, you may be surprised that 70% have headquarters in the US, and before they have been buying all their things from US. So you really have to look at all of that and make a decision again whether to pivot or persevere. NGOs, government, very hard procurement processes. Other B2Bs, maybe you're selling to hospitals or supermarkets. So we really have to look at all these factors as well. And thanks, Abraham, for bringing this question and map it out. And from that, we may make quick conclusions. And if we are not sure, we go and carry out these experiments, cheap experiments, and from that we get our learning, and we verify whether we can persevere or pivot. I hope I have answered the question, and it has brought in so many insights. I hope I have. I don't know if there are more questions or if I've answered your question, but very important. Very important at this stage. Timothy asked a question earlier. He said, "What did my friend do to get back to business?" Unfortunately, my friend has never gotten back to business. It's like I said, when you do business, when you're not informed, you make huge losses. He has never gotten back to business. Remember, he had even resigned from his job. It was tough years, but he's picking up now and he's moving. It can be very tough if you miss some of these processes that we are talking about. Look simple, but if you don't do them, they can you can waste a lot of money and time. What should someone do in case their business not bringing in profits after following a modern lean process of doing business? And if customers lose trust in your business, can you regain back your trust? Yeah, if you follow this process, like we said, really the goal is to minimize wastage. We hope that you will minimize wastage, and we hope that you don't reach a point where you build a business that doesn't make money. Really, you shouldn't reach that final point where you have built a business and it's not making money when you're using this minimize wastage, maximize learning. If you're learning following this process, you should be able to identify early enough whether to pivot or persevere. So there shouldn't be a point where you build a business and the chances should really be very high, because like I said, we even aim at getting orders from customers before we even build the product. That's the whole idea, and we'll dive deep into that in the next sessions. We want to even get an order. I want people to pay even before I have the product done. That's what I want. I want to have some purchase orders before I invest a lot of money in the product. That's what you want. Otherwise, you spend a lot of time and money. If customers lose trust in your business, can they come back? Yeah, sometimes people rebrand and customers come back. Um, you can rebrand and make it different strategy, change. But trust is a different word altogether. I think trust is a bigger thing. Trust is hard to build, especially if it has integrity issues. It's a very hard component, that one. But if it's just strategy that was bad and you improve it, bring lower prices, people can come in. If it's other people can come in. So that's really yeah, that's the process. I'm taking some questions. I see we have a few minutes. Again, we'll just go beyond by 5 minutes. Maybe in the next 6 minutes we should be done with this. I just want to hear from you and see if we have understood this whole process that we are talking about. Abraham has his hand again. Abraham, please, Abraham. Abraham. Yes, please. Yeah, you're there.
I actually didn't raise my hand.
Hey, it is still up.
I think it's the previous one.
No problem, no problem. Yeah. Questions? Are there more questions? Any reflections? Maybe you can just type for me if you have gained from this session. Maybe one line, one word or few words, what you have learned from this customer development, just to reflect as we finish. Just one or two words, if there's anything that has interested you, or anything that anything that has really interested you, or something that has annoyed you. Either way, just one word here, and then we'll wind up this call. And I will share these. Raymond is asking again if the session is recorded. Yes, it is recorded, and I will share it to all of you by end of today. Yeah. So just one word. Is there anything that was impressive for you, or something that you didn't know? I'll share the test card, the persona template, the learning card. These are templates that people have designed, again, to try to make the process very, very easy, to make people understand, and kind of a schematic process that you will follow to do business. Can you run multiple experiments at the same time? Yes, you can. Yes, you can run multiple experiments. You can have different people run the experiments on your behalf and have the experiments run. Minimize wastage, maximize learning. That's the truth. That's the goal of a lean startup. You don't want to start a business and waste a lot of resources in terms of money and time. So whatever we talk about here is to minimize that. We don't want you to waste a lot of money, so it's about minimizing wastage, maximizing learning. Yes, yes, yes. Any more questions, reflections, ideas, suggestions? I will try to wind up in a few minutes. But that's really customer development. Maybe just recap for you once again. Yeah, what Tim says is take home is being able to go back and profile the customers. That is very, very important. Most of us don't sit down to profile our customer, and all huge organizations, they would actually draw the profile of the customer there. They know how much they earn, because remember, business has to make some money. They will know their location. They will know very many things about the customer before they know the customer. What are their pains? What is their main goal? What is their everything about them? And like I've said, for B2Bs, took me a lot of time. It's hard information to uncover. What are their spending habits? What are their procurement processes? What are the difficult things? How do the committees involved, and etc. And so once you have profiled the customer, now you run experiments to try to get insights. And next week on Wednesday, we'll go deep down into what we call a minimum viable product. What product? Let's say you're selling. I don't know what people are selling. But if I wanted to sell, for instance, pads, I see I see. I saw. Did I see her? She's around. I know. She was one of the people who was on the call. She has a company that is making pads. If I wanted to make pads, for instance, sanitary pads, what would I do? How would I run an experiment? So we build an MVP and we go to these supermarkets and pretend for a moment that we have pads, and we tell them we have pads A, B, C, D. We can deliver for you maybe some orders. Would you like pads? And then the manager will say, I want pads. I don't want pads. They will tell you, and you tell them the price. Or you can even just go with a brochure. You can design a brochure and you go with the different types without even having the product. Show them the price and get insights from them. And where even possible, if your delivery time is very short, even get the purchase order signed. Let them sign for you and say, would want you to begin delivering every week before you even do anything. And then you're in a good place. Yeah, my wife is on, says getting to know my customer. Thank you. Abraham says great insights. And Erin says useful plan, the test card and the personal template. Very useful stuff. So I hope that we are benefiting from this. And this is a series of sessions about introduction to the lean business, and there are 2 sessions. This is the second one, and like I mentioned, we shall do 2 more. Next week we'll dive deep into building this minimum product. What is the minimum, what we call the minimum viable product? What is the minimum that I can take to the customer and validate all my assumptions using the test card and the learning card before I launch out, before I invest huge sums. Somebody's on? Not sure. Before I invest huge sums, what is the minimum? So we'll do that. And then finally, we'll do another session on the 27th to recap this series on innovation accounting, looking at the numbers that are important to look at and some of the things to measure, some of the things to learn. And that will give you a good really introduction into running business using the lean way. I want to thank you very much for sparing your time to come to this session. We started when we were 83 people subscribed. 32 made it to the last session yesterday. 13 made it to the session we had yesterday. I don't know who has their microphone on. Let me mute him. And today we have 12. So there are people who are going with us, but I hope you can stick up to the end. And then at the end, I'll tell you what else I will offer you that will help your business to grow. Thank you very much. I will be in touch with you. I'll send the notes. And sorry, Philip, your internet has been poor, but we are fine. Thank you very much. I'll be in touch with you and I'll share the slides, and let's keep in touch. And thank you very much. See you all next week on Wednesday at the same time. And in case you have any questions, just email them to me at any time and we'll be in touch. Thank you. See you next week, and cheers.